Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about American classics that have been lost to history. I say lost to history. Some of these have gotten a more recent publishing, which is, I think, great to see. But a lot of classics, American classics that are popular, well-known, are by white authors. And there were non-white authors that were writing too, so everyone on this list is not a white author. I am going to go by year of publication, so I'm just going to get into it. The first one is Mrs. Spring Fragrance. This is by Sui Sin Far. That is her pen name. Her actual name is Edith Maud Eaton. So this was published in 1912. It is the first known work to ever be published by an Asian author in America, and it was written by a Chinese American woman. This is a short story collection that takes place on the West Coast. Some of them take place in Seattle, and some of them take place in the Bay Area, mainly San Francisco area. And they are not totally connected, but there are connections between a few of the stories. These are very dramatic in nature. There's very much a soap opera vibe to them, and the portrayal within the short stories is really Chinese Americans' interactions with white Americans. I read this a while ago, but one of my takeaways that I had from my reading experience was the language used at the time. I mainly read a lot of the books on this list for the historic context, as opposed to looking for my new favorite book. One of the things that I noticed in the writing in this is that white characters were referred to as Americans. Chinese characters were referred to as Chinese. Regardless of if they were first generation, second generation, if they were originally Chinese citizens, or if they were American citizens, or if they were naturalized later, they were all called Chinese. And so there was this distinction at the time by this Chinese author of Chinese versus American. That's something that I think that is seen throughout a lot of these classics that throughout these classics that I'm going to be talking about. I found the language very easy to get into, even though it was written or published in 1912. They were the language was not dense. It was very readable, and it was didn't really. I found them to be more superficial in nature, but still kind of found them fun. The next one is Yokohama, California by Toshio Mori. So this one has an interesting history in terms of its publication. So it was published in 1949, but it was written before this. So it was intended originally to be published in 1942, but World War II happened and Japanese internment happened. This is written by a Japanese author. Japanese internment happened. The author themselves was interned in a camp, and they weren't going to be publishing a Japanese author at the time of World War II. So its publication got delayed, and with that came 2 new short stories that were introduced into the collection. While I liked those stories tonally, they were quite a bit different from the ones that were written pre-World War II. These take place all in one community. It's a short story collection. They take place in Yokohama, California, which is not a real place. Having grown up in the Bay Area, very much felt like it was supposed to be in Bay Area. They referenced cities that were real. I think that Yokohama was supposed to be somewhere around Oakland and Alameda area. This is very much about a community of individuals that all live in this same place, interacting with the world around them, interacting with each other within this community. There were a lot of flower shops that showed up. I think that the way that it is written is interesting because a lot of the stories are written in first person by this unknown narrator that is not interacting with the world around them. So as I was reading these, I kept expecting to have them start interacting with the space. And when they didn't, I was left feeling a little bit confused. So I think going into the stories, it's important to know that so you can kind of contextualize yourself to the narrative. And this was one of the first works, if not the first work, published in America by a Japanese author. Okay, so now we're going to be moving into 1957. This is No Boy by John Okada. John Okada is a Japanese author who was interned during World War II, and it is very much about the aftermath of World War II to Japanese communities. A lot of Japanese individuals did not go back to the towns that they lived in before after World War II, but in this story we follow our protagonist who does return. He is facing a lot of grief and trauma because he was one of those people who checked no to two specific questions on the loyalty questionnaire, which was a real thing. And when you check those boxes, as a Japanese man, you were not brought into the armed forces and enlisted, but instead you were imprisoned. So he had spent the years in a prison, and was now returning to his community in Seattle. He receives a lot of backlash from his community, who sees him now as an outsider. You see the trauma that the community faced kind of from all aspects. Your protagonist who did not join, who has to face backlash from his community. The friend who did enlist, who is now dealing with the physical and mental repercussions. His mother, who is a loyalist, a Japanese loyalist who believes that Japan won the war and this is all propaganda, that America won. His father, who is an alcoholic, and that's his coping mechanism. The protagonist is very angsty and angry. He is trying to interact with his world and is finding that very challenging. He has a lot of introspection, and even though it's a third-person narrative, you're kind of brought into his monologues as he kind of philosophizes about his world and how he can go on interacting with it. It questioned what it means to be Japanese, what it means to be American, and there's a lot of what it means to be a part of a community, and the repercussions that a community can face after crisis. It was very angry. It was very passionate. It was a book that I do really recommend. It gave me a lasting impression of emotion. I read this book years ago, but I can still feel the anger and the emotion that kind of seeped through this text. Okay, and my last one was published in 1959. It is Brown Girl, Brownstone by Polly Marshall. This is a coming-of-age story of a Black girl whose parents are both originally from Barbados. She lives in a brownstone in Brooklyn, in more of a communal living situation where there's not necessarily different apartments within the brownstone. There are shared spaces. It's kind of broken into three parts. You start when she's about 7 or 8, and you see her until she's a late teen into her very early adulthood. Because it expands across such a scope of time, you kind of see into moments in her life, interactions with people that are highly impactful on her, interactions with people that are in her community, interactions that people that live in the brownstone, interactions with one of her really good friends, interactions with her parents, the conflict between her parents, one of them wanting to go back to Barbados and one of them wanting to live the American dream. The book itself and her childhood goes from the 30s and into the 40s. The book and the writing was very emotional and kind of visceral in the way that her emotions are described. They're very immediate, and I couldn't help but be absorbed into the narrative as I was reading it. It's a coming-of-age story, and so she kind of comes into herself, and like you see her start to understand and interact with her race, with her gender, with her sexuality, and kind of like grow into those things or start to develop an understanding of them. And those things mixed with her interactions with her parents and her community kind of cause the kind of tension and forward motion of the plot. I mean, I recommend every one of the books on this list in some capacity. I did really enjoy this one. I really liked it as a coming of age story. I liked the book more as it kind of moved on, and kind of liked the ending and how it wrapped up. So I do recommend this one as well. But those are all the books that I have. I would really appreciate suggestions of books that have been lost to time, classics written by non-white authors. Don't have to be from America, but I specifically like those because I like filling in the gaps of the voices that have kind of built us up to where we are now. So that is all I got for this video. So until next time, happy reading.